will say, finally, the Seattle Times woke up and decided to cover this issue, something that we've talked about on this show many, many times. The Senate, Democrats, decided to move forward with an initiative that would effectively kill our initiatives, a bill that would kill voter-led initiatives. They're doing this because they're upset that last year, Republicans were able to push through a slate of initiatives that were incredibly popular that reversed the legislative victories for the Democrats because what they were pushing was deeply unpopular. Now, of course, they found a way around, for example, the Parents' Bill of Rights. They just completely gutted it and ignored the will of the people. That's what's going to happen once they end up passing it. But they also decided to pass a bill that would add new requirements overseeing the whole signature gathering process. But the requirements are such that it is impossible to actually complete, which means if this were to pass, assuming it's constitutional, which is a big question, if it passes the way that it's written, Republicans are correct in dubbing it the initiative killer. Now, one of the parts of this that is just so insane to me is that you would, as a signature gatherer, someone who's going around asking people to sign the petition, you would have to sign a declaration on every single sheet of signatures that they collect that it is accurate, what you're sending in. Now, you might say, well, so what? Well, because if I go up and I sign Jackson's name and I put incorrect information and the person signs it, they're now in legal trouble. Why would anyone willingly do that? They're expected to fact check the addresses and the information in a way that is not just cumbersome, but pretty much impossible. And as Senator Phil Fortunato put it on the Senate floor last week, the Republican from Auburn, this is an assault on the voters of Washington.
We have a Constitution for a reason. And, you know, it's pretty simple, pretty clean. You just have to be a registered voter. Now, sometimes people will make mistakes. Sometimes people will sign initiatives twice, for example. Sometimes maybe they moved and they didn't re-register or whatever. So they will make mistakes. That's why we have the process of verification with the Secretary of State's office.
Now, speaking of the Secretary of State, Steve Hobbs, who last time I checked was still a Democrat, right?
He is.
Very much so. He's against this. He calls it unnecessary. He says it's cumbersome. He says it's expensive. And as Senator Jim McCune of Graham points out, it's unconstitutional.
And this is changing the wording of the Constitution and making the goals so high and the task so high that nobody will be able to get signatures.
Now, in Washington State, we have a right to move forward with a voter-led initiative. You can make it easier to do voter-led initiatives. You cannot make them harder. That's our constitutional right, which is why this bill is so clearly unconstitutional. But they'll move forward with it anyway. And, of course, they're pretending that this has nothing to do with wanting to shut down the initiative process. In fact, to quote Jamie Peterson, the majority leader on the left, quote, "Nobody wants to shut down the initiative process." You know, that would be more believable if y'all didn't say you wanted to stop the initiative process at the beginning of this legislative session because you were upset with the initiative process. You have Democrats who aren't content with having total control of the governorship, the House, and the Senate, and the Supreme Court. They're not happy with that. They need to have total control, which means you won't get a say. They're saying, oh, no, we're just implementing rules to make it safer because, you know, people cheat in elections. Oh, really? Didn't y'all tell us that that doesn't happen? Wasn't that a big talking point from the left? That, oh, our elections are perfect. What are you talking about? Well, technically, we didn't say anything about the voter initiative process. Oh, okay. Understand. If this goes through, we no longer have an initiative process in the state of Washington. It is not possible to abide by the rules that they put in place, and that's precisely why they're putting these rules in place. And that even the Seattle Times gets it, tells you how bad it is, how egregious it is. if even the Seattle Times is calling attention to this, then it's a problem. And they are calling attention to this. I would just want to read a small portion of this because it is a little bit, it's a news story, but they're editorializing a little bit. But because I agree with this editorializing, I'm okay with it. A Senate bill backed by Democrats want to add new requirements. It would require the Secretary of State's office to check addresses during the signature verification process, and it would require signature gatherers to sign a declaration on each sheet of signatures they collect. Backers of the bill say this will increase accountability and ensure each signature belongs to a registered voter. They don't think it should be controversial. It is. And it's with those two words, it is, that tells you as best as they're ever going to come out in favor of Republican opposition, it tells you how extreme this actually is. So ask yourself whether or not you believe we should retain the right to voter-led initiatives. And if the answer to that question is yes, then you should be upset with this legislation. If you're upset with this legislation, you should make it known that you're upset with this legislation. You should call your state lawmaker. You should send an email to your state lawmaker. You should tell your friends to do exactly the same thing. You know why we now finally have the ability for law enforcement to pursue criminals who are fleeing in a stolen Hyundai or Kia? Because of the voter-led initiative. We were the ones who got that finally reversed. How many crimes were committed as a direct result of the Democratic legislation that barred police from vehicular pursuits? How many? So many we can't even keep track. How many pot shops had stolen vehicles driven through them, and then the bad guys, upon stealing whatever it is they could, drove away in another stolen vehicle? I mean, there's some shops that got hit multiple times within a short period of time. That's because of that bill. It was reversed as a direct result of you. Now, of course, we would be celebrating the Parental Bill of Rights, but Democrats decided to just gut that because they lied to you. They lied to us all when they said, okay, fine, we'll accept the initiative, and then just undo it. It's pretty disgusting. But if this bothers you, okay, do something about it. Say something. You can be civil, yet still be passionate when calling or writing to your lawmakers and making sure everyone knows the voter initiative process is incredibly popular. Did you know that?
Really?
Shocking, I know. People like signing things. It's incredibly popular. So when people realize that this is indeed an initiative killer, they likely will start to push back themselves. So let's make sure we're actually saying something in a way that could effectively move this along. Get in the way of this.